Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In this video, we've got Kaitlyn Bristowe on the Savannah Chrisley podcast, or is it Savannah Chrisley? Humor, humility, and frozen eggs, and we're going to get into it right now. I'll tell you, I've got about 7 or 8 clips to share with you, some of them discussing Jason Tartick, where they stand on their relationship. They're working on themselves, putting their careers first, and they talk about some of the pressures that exist there, plus therapy, both couples therapy and inner child work. You know, good things to discuss, learn a little bit about ourselves, and hear what's going on with her. All right, let's get into it. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content. I love live streams this morning at 10:30 a.m. and Bachelor Rush Hour, the afternoon podcast. Every afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour. All your Bachelor needs in one place. Go get it. Link in the comment section below. All right, let's just jump right into it. Here's our first clip.
He's always talking about her exes on podcasts, and he's like, well, it's kind of the world she came from, and if I was the Bachelor, I'd have to talk about all my exes too. Like, that's just, it is part of my life.
Yeah.
And especially people who know who I am know exactly who he is because we ended up together. And now we live in the same city and people want to know what happened still. And so it's like, it's kind of just natural conversation, but it's just never been the right environment to be like, hey, you want to talk about this? Like, I don't know.
Can we bury the hatchet?
Do we want to bury the hatchet? I would I don't even know what I would say because I just want to be like, how's your dog? He's a cute golden.
How's your dog?
He's a dog.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, and too, talking about your exes, that's been something that, like, if the person you're with raises a red flag about that,
Right.
that's like a red flag to me.
Right,
Because
yeah.
it shows that you're
So Kaitlyn's discussing the fact that her ex, Sean, is also living in Nashville, and there's something wrong with the host audio here. I don't know if her microphone's down or what, but I'm getting brutal audio, very grating sound here. All right, let's go to the part where she talks about Jason Tartick.
just kind of like taking your time with wedding stuff.
Yeah. It's so bad because I have so many different thoughts on this.
Yeah.
On one side, I like get so kind of frustrated if it's a troll being like, clearly he doesn't want to marry you or you don't want to marry him or blah, blah. I get annoyed. But if it's genuine fans that have been just so, invested in our relationship, I actually do feel bad because I'm like, I've opened up my world to them. They're just excited.
Yeah.
And then, so when I say things like, yeah, we both are putting our careers first, and that might sound scary to some people, or you might be like, oh gosh, that's a red flag. To us, we're like, well, we just haven't gotten there. And like,
it works for you.
In our opinion, we probably will. And if we don't, that's really sad. But
I think this is very tough for some people to hear, the way that they're kind of realistically talking about the fact that they are hoping they get married. They're definitely engaged, and if they don't, that'll be really sad. But I do kind of like support Kaitlyn in the idea that like you can put your career first and your relationship second. I also understand that probably makes it harder to get down the aisle because it's hard to plan. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and all that. But with Kaitlyn here and Jason, they're both in probably the height of their money making years. And he's starting businesses and she's all over the place. They're both super successful. That can be a good thing. If only one of them is being successful, then the other one is maybe tending to the home or following one around. It can be tough. I'm sure that works in many relationships, but it's all about like finding the right formula to keep that fire going. And who are we to say what that formula for them is,
we probably will.
Yeah.
And so I've thought about eloping. Jason's more of like a traditional wants a wedding.
Yeah.
But the more that we talk about it, the more we get asked, the more we look at wedding budgets.
Yeah.
The more we're like,
sickening.
maybe we do elope. It really is.
It is.
And
it's really for everyone else.
Yeah, and I just bought a Bronco, so I'm poor.
Yes, Bronco, which I am so jealous of because I have wanted it for years.
All right, so Savannah Chrisley or Chrisley, let me get this right. Her parents are in federal prison for tax evasion and tax fraud. Her father's serving 12 years and her mom's serving 7, I believe. So I wouldn't take any tax advice from them. But very interesting that Kaitlyn mentions here she just bought a new Bronco. I think it's one of those electric ones. I could be wrong, but I think it's one of those like restyled up old Broncos. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. But good on her for treating herself. I'm surprised Kaitlyn's even worried about the money for the wedding because financially speaking, it seems like her and Jason are both definitely in the $1 million a year tier bracket. That's just my assumption based on all that they've got going on. But, hey, money's money, I guess, and you want to make sure you're covered for the future. All right, so let's go to the 16-minute mark where they discuss how much pressure there is. We're also going to talk about their 8-hour therapy session and what she has to say about Chris Harrison, so stick around for that.
How long has it been?
A year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a hot minute.
we have done little things for wedding planning here and there.
Yeah.
I was really into it. We were really into wedding planning at the beginning, and I honestly think we were just a little turned off by people taking advantage.
I get it. The industrial wedding complex. Once people find out that your party is now a wedding, the price is going to double. Absolutely. The biggest thing for them is getting a date set. You get a date set, everything else falls in place.
Of slapping the term wedding on something and then bumping up the price. And Jason plays so fair, and I think we just got annoyed.
For sure. And two, the Bachelor franchise as a whole does not make that process easy, I don't feel like. Or like mentally, emotionally, just because the majority of them don't last.
Yeah.
So it's like there has to be a lot of pressure associated with that.
Yeah.
And so there was the other day.
By the way, I was struggling to, I don't want to criticize this podcast because it's much easier to criticize corporate run podcasts because you can just make fun of the corporation. Oh, Bachelor podcasts suck. This is not a good podcast. We'll just leave it at that.
There was, or I guess like a week or two ago, there was an article that came out.
In my opinion,
stating Kaitlyn Bristowe hints that she and fiance Jason, I don't know how to say his last name.
Tardik,
have uncomfortable.
This is part of the problem here. The host knows nothing about Kaitlyn. She's like, who's on your season again? How do you pronounce your husband's last name? She's like, Tartik? That's not like a Polish name. Like,
conversations
Kietkowski.
to prioritize growth.
Yeah, we do. That was a headline?
Yes.
No way.
It was.
Right. I wonder where that came from.
So hopefully it wasn't for me. Let's go to the 18-minute mark here. So Kaitlyn just got back, recently, I guess, from a week-long, I believe, silent or no devices retreat. Let's listen to what she has to say about that.
I did a whole week in California at a inner child retreat where for 7 days I did 13 to 15 hours of therapy a day. And no phone, no computer, no books, so no
kind of like,
distractions.
guys, what I've talked about with on-site.
Yeah. Have you gone on-site?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's like that, but I think a little heavier.
Okay.
So I have learned so much about myself, and I don't think it's anything trauma for me. I think I shouldn't lie. A small part of it probably is because I'm always scared I'm going to lose somebody. Yeah. And the more I show love, the more I'm like letting myself be vulnerable and open, and the more chance I have of getting hurt. Yes, that is a small part.
Yeah.
But I'm also just not an affectionate person.
Okay.
So I think it's a little bit of both, probably.
Do you go out of your way to make yourself feel uncomfortable?
Probably.
To do it so that...
by being on this podcast.
So that I can
force
at least
yourself
show...
Yeah.
I will find myself being like, gosh, I really should, because Jason loves physical touch. So I should go out of my way to do that. And it's not like I'm like, to do it. I'm just like, I have to remind myself to do it.
It's not something that
just doesn't come naturally.
And that's what's important about love languages. It's not always about the one you receive. It's about the one your partner receives, and you give them that. And what you do expect that they'll give you yours. We're the same way. My wife does not understand what an affirmation is. She doesn't get it, but she knows it's important to me. Whereas I don't understand why she wants so much quality time, but it's important to her. So we have to give each other those things. Definitely check out the 5 love languages if you haven't. They discuss Chris Harrison. I think I'm going to skip over the Chris Harrison part. Let's go to the 32-minute mark. It's just kind of like, the same redundant story here. But here we go. Let's see what Kaitlyn has to say about Bachelor being bad at PR.
Like when I was part of that family, and hosting / mentoring, whatever they said I was like, I want to be here and I want to like help the leads. And I just loved being part of that family. And I loved interviewing people from the franchise. But what they don't do properly is PR.
Yeah.
Because they should be bringing in people, you know, we all know everyone's there for Instagram anyways. Bring in people who already have an Instagram following, make them the lead, like spice it up a little. Have everybody come on my podcast, Nick's podcast, like any Bachelor podcast. Don't be like, no, they have to get approval. Like let it go crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, the show's horrible with approval. As you guys know, Clayton Echard did not get approval to do my podcast earlier this year to talk about mental health. When I reached out to him a few weeks ago to do the podcast, he agreed to do it, but we didn't even ask the producer's permission at that point. Sometimes it's better to apologize than ask permission. But either way, it's like, yeah, we're one of the larger YouTube Bachelor channels out here. Why would they not want them to come on our show? Because we're slightly critical of the show. I think their ways of protecting the franchise are too old school, and I agree with Kaitlyn. They should be doing whatever they can to get the right graphics to all of their contestants, to promote every episode, to share all behind the scenes. What if they had a different behind the scenes clip for every contestant to post? You'd go to the different stories. Oh, did you see what's on Kat's page? Oh, look what's over here. But that just doesn't exist.
The PR go nuts.
They try to contain it too much.
Yes, and let it go rogue and let people get the show talking. Like you like drama, not you, but the show.
Yeah, look at what's happening right now with Vanderpump Rules.
Guess what? I've never watched an episode of Vanderpump, and I can't wait to tune in for the next season.
Exactly.
Make it messy.
It's just going completely rogue, the whole thing.
Yeah. I wish they would, I always have to wait for approvals to get guests, and, we don't like what you said on this episode, so we might not have, we'll wait to see. We'll see what we can do. And I'm like, get people talking.
Exactly.
It's going to help your show.
No one wants this picture perfect image. No. Let them speak. Let them state their truth instead of this.
When that happens, hosts get fired. All right. I don't know if I played this final clip here about their 8-hour therapy session.
Incredible partner.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say has been y'all's hardest thing to overcome?
We've been kind of lucky with not having any huge things to overcome. And that's we're really lucky for that. There has not been a really rock bottom overcome moment for us.
Yeah.
But I would say, honestly, probably trying to figure out what are we doing? Why aren't we prioritizing this wedding? Has probably been the hardest thing. And we're kind of in it, but also it hasn't been that challenging. We just have honest, really open communication about it. We did an 8-hour therapy one day.
Wow.
And got to talk so candidly. And
boy, that therapist made a lot of money, didn't he?
From such a vulnerable place.
Mm-hmm.
And we got so far in those 8 hours and that was probably the most thing we've had to overcome, was just it being in a place where we're what's going on with us? And then doing 8 hours of therapy helped us.
Yeah.
And helped us overcome it. So I can never preach therapy enough. I know.
I think Kaitlyn just does such a good job carrying these podcasts. I think she's so rich with content and ability to talk about her experiences, and she's so valuable to our community. I might kissing her ass. That's everything I mean. And I think her and Jason, if they decide to shift focus and go super priority on the wedding, I think it'll all come together, and that can happen sooner than later. But if not, whatever, who are we to care? But I'm sure some people in the comment sections will have your opinions. Leave them right now. We'll be back with more content right after this.